The Galactic Council chamber shimmered like a cathedral of glass and arrogance. 1,000 species sat in curved tiers, their bodies glinting under a mosaic of starlight panels. The air buzzed with static translation fields, heavy with the scent of ozone, burnt copper, and self-importance. In the center stood the emissary pod, empty, save for a single ceramic mug resting on its console. Steam curled from it, spelling 2 words across the rim. World's okayest general. The doors hissed open. General Alexandra Knox walked in like she owned the place, coffee in hand, jacket unbuttoned, hair tied back in a messy bun that defied the galaxy's strictest decorum codes. The council guards shifted their weapon grips, scanning her for explosives, pathogens, or, worse, human humor. She smiled, the kind that made even machines nervous. Sorry I'm late. Traffic around Jupiter was murder. A low ripple of disapproval rolled across the chamber. The Valyrian chancellor, tall and silver-skinned with eyes like molten platinum, leaned forward. General Knox of Earth, he intoned. This is not a place for jest. You stand before the council to answer for your species' repeated violations of interstellar order. Alexandra took a slow sip, the click of her mug louder than any gunfire. Of course. Violations, yes. Care to be specific? We've been busy lately. Holographic screens flared to life around her. Images spun through the air, humans colonizing barren worlds, blasting rock music through alien temples, turning meteor craters into theme parks. The Chancellor's voice deepened. Unauthorized terraforming of neutral moons. Weaponizing gravitational anomalies. Cultural contamination of 8 protected species. You have transformed chaos into recreation. Knox tilted her head. You say that like it's a bad thing. Laughter rippled faintly from the gallery of smaller species, quickly silenced by glares from their superiors. The insectoid delegate of the Krell clacked its mandibles. Humans infect every system they touch. They adapt too quickly, consume too freely, laugh too easily. There must be containment. Knox raised a brow. Containment? You make us sound like a virus. The Chancellor's tone was ice. You are a virus. The Council of Civilized Worlds hereby declares humanity an enemy of the Galactic Accord. Effective immediately, we are at war. The chamber erupted in sound, a symphony of mechanical roars, psychic screams, and sonic bursts. War banners unfolded across the dome, thousands of species broadcasting unity in outrage. Somewhere above, drones released celebratory drones and beams. It was pomp and fury dressed as justice. Knox didn't move. She just smiled. Slowly, almost tenderly. Finally, she whispered, setting her mug on the console. It's time. The Chancellor's brows furrowed. What did you say? She clasped her hands behind her back and began to circle the podium, her boots echoing. You know, I used to wonder what this day would feel like. The Great Galactic Council declaring war on a single blue planet. You must feel proud, united, even. Billions of years of evolution, thousands of civilizations, all agreeing on one thing. She turned toward them, eyes bright as plasma. That humans scare you. A tremor passed through the crowd. The Chancellor tried to reassert control. Your threats. Not threats, she interrupted. Observations. Her voice softened. We tried peace. We joined your councils, learned your rules, paid your fines, and listened to your lectures about harmony. We even brought cookies to your last summit. Remember? You called them weapons of mass addiction. The aquatic representative of the newer gurgled nervously. They were disturbingly good. Knox grinned. Thanks. Grandma's recipe. The Chancellor slammed his metallic staff against the floor. Enough mockery. You think humor will save your world. Humor's not for saving, she said gently. It's for disarming. She walked closer to the Chancellor, her tone suddenly calm, almost kind. Do you know what fear smells like, Chancellor? It's not blood. It's metal, the kind that heats under pressure before it bends. He recoiled slightly. You overestimate your position, human. Do I? She tapped the console beside her mug. The holograms flickered. For a fraction of a second, the council's central data stream flashed red, then reverted. None of the delegates seemed to notice, but a few tech officers glanced up confused. Knox's voice dropped to a near whisper. "Tell me, did your analysts ever ask why humanity built their colonies so far apart? Why we let you monitor our transmissions, but never our cargo routes? Why we shared our star maps, but not our encryption keys?" A murmur spread through the chamber. The Krell delegate's wings buzzed nervously. The Chancellor's voice tightened. "You would not dare." "Oh, Chancellor," Knox said, her grin widening. "You've already dared. You declared war on the species that invented paranoia." The Council guards raised their weapons. Knox didn't flinch. She merely straightened her uniform, glanced at her mug and sighed. "Do you know why humans always look calm when they're outnumbered?" No one answered. "Because we never assume we're outnumbered." Then she pressed the hidden switch beneath the console. No explosion followed, just a faint tremor that rolled beneath their feet. Somewhere beyond the chamber walls, through the frozen void, ancient satellites stirred awake for the first time in centuries. Across distant systems, long dormant beacons blinked red. The Valyrian Chancellor's composure cracked. "What have you done?" Knox smiled with the quiet warmth of someone discussing the weather. "Just called home." Security alarms blared through the chamber. Delegates shouted across frequencies. The Chancellor barked orders to jam transmissions, but the interference spread like wildfire. Every relay, every satellite, every listening post echoing a single human phrase. "It's finally time." Knox retrieved her mug and took another calm sip as chaos bloomed around her. "Relax," she said softly. "It's probably nothing you can fix." The Chancellor pointed a trembling finger. "You'll be detained for this." "Of course," she said, stepping away from the console. "But I wouldn't recommend it." "Why?" She met his gaze. "Because right now, every human colony within 5 sectors just got the same message. And we're terrible at sitting still." For a long, electric moment, silence reigned. The Chancellor's eyes flicked toward the council windows, where distant streaks of light began crossing the stars, motionless at first, then accelerating. The translation fields distorted under the rising noise of panic. Knox turned toward the doors. "You'll understand soon. We're not unpredictable, Chancellor. We're just faster at learning what scares you." She paused at the threshold, looking back once more. "Oh, and do keep those war banners. They'll make excellent souvenirs." Then she walked out, slowly, deliberately, leaving the greatest alliance in galactic history speechless. Far beyond the chamber, a pulse rippled through the void, ancient engines roaring awake beneath Saturn's rings. The beacons kept repeating her phrase, steady, unhurried, inevitable. "It's finally time." The council chamber had been sealed for 12 hours, and still, the aliens argued in circles. The air was thick with static, desperation, and the faint metallic scent of fear. What had begun as a simple containment briefing now sounded more like group therapy for empires that suddenly realized they weren't at the top of the food chain. General Alexandra Knox sat at the far end of the oval table, hands folded neatly, coffee replaced with a glass of water she hadn't touched. Her mirrored aviators rested beside her datapad, glinting under the sterile light. Every time one of the alien delegates glanced at those lenses, they saw their own reflection, and somehow that unsettled them more than her smile. The Valyrian Chancellor's composure was gone. He leaned over the table, voice sharp as plasma. "We are not discussing panic, we are discussing prevention. The human colonies must be isolated immediately. Their communication networks dismantled, their fleets disarmed." Across the table, the insectoid Krell ambassador clacked its mandibles. "Containment failed last time. They evolve too fast. They absorb every tactic. They turn loss into instruction." From the shadows, the aquatic newer delegate gurgled agreement through its translator bubble. They laugh under fire." Knox finally spoke. "That's because fear's a luxury, not a strategy." Her voice was even, conversational, but every word landed like a calibration strike. The Chancellor turned, silver skin flickering. General Knox, perhaps you could enlighten us. What precisely is the human condition? Why do your people act as if war is a festival? She smiled faintly, the kind that said she'd been waiting for this question. Festival? That's generous. No, Chancellor. War is an art form. The kind we learn the hard way, painted with blood, refined with loss, perfected through repetition. An uneasy silence followed. The crystalline envoy of the Tauren collective leaned forward, its facets shimmering. You speak as though you take pride in it. Knox tilted her head. We take pride in survival. You call us chaotic because you don't understand organized madness. We build beauty out of terror. We joke while bleeding. That's not insanity. That's adaptation. The insectoid hissed. And yet you destroyed 3 civilizations within a century. Destroyed? Knox chuckled softly. No. We liberated them, from stagnation. You mistake movement for violence. We don't seek war, we respond to it better than anyone ever has. The Chancellor activated the holoscreens again. Footage flickered to life. Human soldiers in muddy trenches, laughing as alien plasma scorched the ground near them. Engineers rebuilding ships from wreckage. Colonists singing while welding armor plating under fire. These, he said, are not signs of discipline. They are deranged. Knox leaned back, tapping her fingers lightly. That's perspective. You call it deranged because you've forgotten fear. We never did. The Chancellor frowned. Fear makes one weak. Only if you let it, she replied softly. We learn to weaponize it. Fear sharpens instincts. It reminds us to plan 3 steps ahead. You've evolved past it, Chancellor, and that's your problem. You've become comfortable. A ripple of psychic murmurs passed through the telepathic delegates. Knox continued, voice growing quieter, colder. Every defeat we've ever suffered taught us something. Every tragedy, every extinction, every mistake, it all built us. You see chaos, but what you're looking at is compression under pressure. And you know what happens under enough pressure. The crystalline envoy of the Tauren whispered, trembling faintly. You make diamonds. She smiled. Exactly. The Krell ambassador slammed its claws on the table. And what happens when such a species turns its gaze outward? Knox's eyes flicked toward the alien. Then the universe adjusts, or it burns. The Chancellor interjected sharply. Enough riddles. You imply humanity has been preparing for this. I'm not implying, she said. I'm confirming. The holoscreens changed again. This time, tactical analyses compiled by alien intelligence units. Charts showed unpredictable battle outcomes, shifting tactics, irregular supply routes, and unconventional psychological maneuvers. Each labeled, human anomalies. The Chancellor gestured. Your unpredictability makes diplomacy impossible. Knox smiled faintly. No, Chancellor. It makes diplomacy necessary. A flicker of amusement passed through the chamber, uneasy but undeniable. Knox rose slowly, resting her palms on the table. You think we enjoy this game? That we crave domination? That's projection. We don't conquer for pleasure, we adapt for survival. You see us as emotional, volatile, impulsive. And you're right. But behind that noise, there's a machine. A calculating, learning, unrelenting machine made of 7 billion improvisers who never agree on anything except one rule. Don't lose. The room was silent except for the faint hum of air filters. The newer delegate whispered. You cannot win against the entire galaxy. Knox met its gaze. Who said we'd play fair? For a heartbeat, no one moved. The Chancellor straightened, his voice regaining edge. Your arrogance will destroy you. Probably, she admitted with a shrug. But we've been destroyed before. You can't threaten a species that's looked extinction in the eye a dozen times and laughed back. The Tauren envoy pulsed dimly. Then why smile when war is declared? She paused, then gave a small, genuine smile. Because it means the rest of you finally stopped underestimating us. The Chancellor slammed his staff against the floor. Enough. The Council will proceed with immediate mobilization. Humanity will be suppressed before your so-called adaptability infects the stars. Knox nodded slowly. Of course, Chancellor. Just remember one thing. His eyes narrowed. What? When you come for us, she said, voice lowering to a whisper, don't aim to win. Aim to learn. Otherwise, you won't survive long enough to understand what killed you. A cold silence followed. Even the translation field seemed hesitant to render her tone. One of the younger delegates, a frail avian scholar, broke the quiet. General, do humans truly believe in peace? Knox looked at him for a long moment. We believe peace is what happens between wars. A pause to sharpen the next blade. The Chancellor sneered. And you think that's noble? No, she said softly. Just honest. She sat back down, folding her hands neatly once more. Go ahead with your mobilization. I hope it's as perfect as your speech is. You've never fought anyone who uses humor as misdirection, chaos as camouflage, or pain as policy. You're about to. A distant hum began beneath the chamber floor, the sound of ships mobilizing, fleets awakening. Hollow displays flared with coordinates of the Sol system, tactical patterns forming like constellations. Knox studied them quietly, a faint smirk touching her lips. All that technology, she murmured. And not a single one of you asked why we keep smiling. The Chancellor glared. Because you're insane. No, she said, eyes glinting with steel. Because it terrifies you. She rose, straightening her uniform. The council guard stepped forward, uncertain whether to escort her or aim their weapons. She gave them a polite nod and started toward the door. General Knox, the Chancellor called. You walk out of here as if victory is certain. She stopped and looked back, her voice a low hum. Victory's never certain. But panic? That's predictable. And you're already there. As the doors sealed behind her, the chamber erupted into frantic activity. Delegates shouted orders, analysts recalibrated simulations, commanders began coordinating the first strike. And high above the council station, beyond the reach of their scanners, small human satellites were already aligning, quietly, patiently, waiting for her next command. The first alien fleets arrived in the Sol system, with the precision of gods and the arrogance of conquerors. Thousands of ships, silver crescents, obsidian monoliths, spiked leviathans, emerged from folded space and formed ranks around the blue world below. They expected defiance, laser storms, resistance. Instead, they found nothing. No radio chatter. No human fleet. Only the quiet hum of Earth spinning peacefully under pale clouds. Admiral Vereth of the Valyrian Armada narrowed his molten eyes. Where is their defense grid? His second-in-command, a nervous reptilian officer, checked the scanners. No active transmissions. No energy signatures. No life signs detected on surface. Vereth frowned. Impossible. Billions of them vanished. The reptilian hesitated. Maybe, evacuation? Evacuation. Vereth snorted. Humans don't run. They linger. Across the void, other fleets reported the same. Mars was abandoned. Luna Base, silent. Even the orbital stations that once blared pop songs to confuse council interceptors were dead and cold. It was as if humanity had dissolved into vacuum. Then the message came. A single open transmission, frequency ancient and unencrypted. The voice that answered was smooth, calm, and terrifyingly familiar. Hello, Chancellor, said General Knox. You made good time. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. The transmission was being relayed live to every fleet, every command center. The Chancellor rose, face like steel. General Knox, explain the disappearance of your species. Her image appeared on the holoscreen, standing aboard a station with Earth glowing behind her shoulder. Oh, we're still here. Just busy redecorating. The Chancellor leaned forward. Your world is defenseless. Knox smirked. That's what we wanted you to think. We call this Operation Smile. Cute name, right? The fleet stirred uneasily. Knox continued conversationally, as if discussing weather forecasts. It started a decade ago. We noticed how much you relied on scanners, signals, energy patterns. You assume what you can't detect doesn't exist. So, we learned to hide. Not with stealth, but with noise. White noise. The same frequency as cosmic background radiation. Congratulations, you've been staring at our trap for years. Before anyone could respond, the planet below flickered. The blue oceans dimmed, clouds darkened, and Earth's magnetic poles pulsed with synchronized rhythm. Massive rings of light emerged around the moon, spinning slowly like the iris of a colossal eye. What is that? The Krell Admiral hissed. Nox's voice softened. That, Admiral, is a gravitational harmonizer. We built it under your noses using lunar dust, human stubbornness, and some rather questionable budget cuts. It bends mass like clay. We tested it twice. Once by accident. The first pulse erupted silently. Every ship within 2 million kilometers shuddered. Artificial gravity faltered. Hulls groaned. Systems rebooted. A few vessels collided, their shimmering shields collapsing like glass. Ver-Eth shouted, "Retreat! Reposition!" But when the armadas tried to turn, their navigation systems failed. Star maps scrambled into spinning smiley faces on every display, accompanied by a cheerful Earth-accented voice. "Oops! Wrong turn, buddy." Nox's laughter echoed faintly through comms. "I told the engineers to have fun with it." Chaos rippled through the fleets. Ships fired blindly, misreading friend as foe. The harmonizer pulsed again, this time slower, deliberate. Its waves bent light itself, creating mirages of phantom fleets that weren't real. Nox watched from orbit, hands clasped behind her back. Around her, human officers calmly adjusted readings. "Let's tune it to 80%, she said. "We don't want to destroy them. Just teach them a little humility." Her lieutenant grinned. "And if humility fails? Then we play music." A soft hum filled every alien ship. Then, impossibly, a song, old, human, analog, spread across their comm systems. Sinatra's voice, smooth and taunting. "Fly me to the moon." Some ships tried to jam the signal, but it played through hull vibrations and weapon frequencies. The melody wove through panic. Crews screamed as their targeting systems synced to the beat. Plasma shots discharged rhythmically, exploding in accidental harmony. In the council war room, the Chancellor shouted, "Deactivate that signal." Nox's voice replied instantly. "Oh, you can't. It's analog. The universe hums along." As fleets spiraled in confusion, smaller human ships, ones the aliens hadn't detected, unfolded from behind asteroids and dead satellites. Black hulls with matte surfaces, no heat signatures. Each carried one emblem, a crooked smile. They didn't fire. They simply drifted, observing. Nox's lieutenant whispered, "They're terrified." "They should be," Nox said quietly. "It's the first time they've realized we weren't joking." The Chancellor tried to sound composed. "You call this strategy? You sow chaos and call it victory." Nox smiled faintly. "Chaos? No. Symmetry. You declared war, Chancellor. We're just choreographing it." The harmonizer flared again, its pulse painting gravity lines across space like ripples in water. Entire fleets were pulled inward, not crushed, but trapped in orbits that kept them circling the Earth like shiny trophies. Nox spoke again, her tone suddenly soft, almost motherly. "We told you we'd play nice. You mistook patience for weakness." On the edge of the battlefield, Ver-Eth's flagship tried to escape using a quantum fold drive. The instant it engaged, the harmonizer bent the fold back on itself. The ship vanished, then reappeared 20 kilometers to the left, split cleanly in two. Nox winced slightly. That wasn't supposed to happen. Poor guy. The Chancellor's fury cracked through comms. "You've unleashed a weapon that could destabilize spacetime." "Could," Nox admitted. "Or could stabilize it. Depends on who's smiling." Her officers exchanged looks. They'd seen this side of her before, the dangerous calm that settled before every decisive strike. "Chancellor," she said, "you wanted submission. You called it order. We offered cooperation. You called it chaos. But here's the truth. Humans don't destroy to dominate. We destroy to balance. Balance? She nodded slowly. Between arrogance and humility. Between predator and prey. The harmonizer dimmed, its pulses slowing like a heartbeat easing to rest. The surviving fleets drifted, powerless but intact. Debris sparkled like new constellations. The moon's surface glowed faintly, carved with a symbol visible from orbit, a simple curved line beneath two dots. A smile. Nox turned to her lieutenant. Send them the message. He tapped a console. Across every screen in the alien armadas appeared text in a dozen languages, all translating the same three words. We're still learning. Nox gazed at Earth, serene in the distance. That should buy us a century of peace. Maybe two, if they remember the lesson. Her aide hesitated. And if they don't? Nox smiled, the same quiet, unreadable expression she wore when the Council first declared war. Then we'll remind them. Behind her, the harmonizer's rings began retracting, folding neatly back into lunar shadows. The world returned to silence, as though nothing had happened. The stars blinked, innocent witnesses. Somewhere deep within the alien command ships, engines hummed to life again. Fearful voices argued about retreat, surrender, vengeance. But all of them paused when the comm crackled one last time with Nox's steady tone. Before you leave, she said. Remember what fear taught you today. We learned it first. The transmission ended. Far below, Earth turned beneath clouds, peaceful, patient, smiling. The galaxy was silent. Not the natural quiet of distant stars, but the hollow silence of fear remembered too late. The wreckage of once mighty fleets drifted through the void like funeral garlands. Twisted metal, shattered pride, and flickering banners that once declared unity against the humans. Every transmission channel was dead except one, a steady repeating beacon that pulsed across the stars in a rhythm as old as Earth itself. Tick, tock, smile. In the ruins of the Council's war chamber, the great banners of the Galactic Accord hung limp. The Chancellor, once radiant and godlike, now stood small among the debris of his civilization's certainty. He had aged in a single week. His silver skin was dull, his eyes hollow. When the door hissed open, the guards almost drew weapons, then froze as General Alexandra Nox stepped inside. She wore no armor. No weapon. Just a neat uniform and that faint, unnerving smile that seemed to know more than it should. General, the Chancellor said hoarsely. We did not summon you. Nox's boots echoed softly on the marble floor. You didn't have to. I go where the damage settles. He turned, rage flickering weakly. You call this victory? You crippled half the galaxy. Nox clasped her hands behind her back. No, Chancellor. You did that the moment you mistook fear for weakness. The crystalline Tauran envoy, cracked and dim, rasped. What do you want now? Conquest? Tribute? Nox tilted her head. None of that. Humans don't need subjects. We need memory. The Chancellor frowned. Memory? Yes. Fear fades. And when it fades, foolishness follows. You declared war on us because you forgot what war costs. She gestured toward the holographic map flickering behind him. Entire sectors blinking red, colonies dark. Now you remember. A hush fell. The alien envoys shifted uncomfortably. The newer delegate, still trembling within its containment sphere, spoke softly. You could have destroyed us all. Nox nodded. We could have. That's the point. She walked closer, her presence steady as gravity. Do you know what makes humans terrifying? Not our weapons, not our chaos. It's that we always stop just short of annihilation. We understand limits. We invented mercy because we needed something to hold the line between monsters and men. The Chancellor's voice cracked. You expect gratitude? No, Nox said. Just perspective. She stopped before him, studying the deep cracks in the chamber floor, the shattered pride in his stance. You thought humanity wanted domination. But we don't rule empires. We build warnings. Every scar we leave is a message. Don't test the species that learned survival from extinction itself. He stared at her, voice breaking. Why do you smile, human? Even now? Nox's expression softened. Because I know you'll listen better when you're afraid. She touched a control on her wristband. The massive windows above them darkened, revealing the starfield outside. Among the drifting wreckage, hundreds of small human ships glided between fragments, towing the disabled alien vessels to safety. No glory, no vengeance, just quiet efficiency. We're rescuing your crews, she said. Even the ones who fired first. The Chancellor blinked. Why? Because, Nox said. The next time someone wants to burn your world, you'll remember who pulled you from the fire. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Tauran envoy whispered. You could have enslaved us. Nox shrugged lightly. That's not our style. You can't teach a lesson if there's no one left to learn it. The Chancellor turned to the window, watching the slow ballet of recovery ships. His voice was quieter now. You've changed the order of things. Every species will fear you. Nox nodded. Good. Fear keeps balance. But remember, fear can heal too. It reminds you to value what you might lose. He exhaled, trembling. And what if we forget again? Her eyes, usually warm, turned cold. Then we'll remind you again. Gently if possible. She turned toward the exit, her footsteps echoing. But just before the doors opened, the Chancellor spoke once more, barely a whisper. General Nox, what do humans fear? She paused. For the first time her expression shifted. Not humor, not pride, but something almost mournful. Ourselves, she said quietly. And the day we stop caring enough to hold back. The doors slid open. Light from the corridor spilled in, bright and blinding against the chamber's gloom. Behind her, the alien envoys stared after her in silence. The newer delegate whispered. She walked in like judgment, and left like salvation. Outside, the galaxy stirred under her shadow. Across hundreds of systems, alien civilizations began disarming voluntarily, sending reparations to Earth unprompted. Fear had done what diplomacy never could. It had united them under restraint. Nox stood aboard her command station once more, Earth rising in the viewport. The harmonizer on the moon lay dormant, its rings folded, silent as a prayer. Her lieutenant approached quietly. Reports confirm all fleets are retreating. Even the Krell. You've won, General. Nox didn't smile this time. There's no winning, Lieutenant. Only surviving with a conscience. He hesitated. Do you think they'll forgive us? She looked out at the glowing Earth below. Her reflection ghosted across the glass. Forgiveness is overrated. Understanding lasts longer. He nodded, then asked softly. What should we call this day in the records? Nox thought for a long moment, then answered. The day the galaxy remembered fear. Her voice carried through the quiet bridge, steady and solemn. Because fear, when it's honest, makes you wiser. And because sometimes, mercy has to wear a terrifying face to be heard. The stars outside shimmered like distant candles, the wreckage of pride drifting among them. Humanity's ships moved in silence, guiding broken vessels home, not as conquerors, but as reminders of balance. Nox watched until the last debris vanished behind the planet's curve. Then at last she smiled again, softly, privately, a smile not of triumph but of burden carried well. Let them rebuild, she whispered. Let them whisper about us in their histories. As long as they remember why we smiled. Far below, Earth turned slowly beneath its clouds, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy knew peace not out of hope, but out of memory.